I'm going to take a look now at some of my favourite keyboard shortcuts for working with layers and quick selections. First of all, as far as the layers palette goes, F7, which opens the layers palette and closes it. We've looked at that in a couple of the earlier tutorials. That one's got to be a winner because we need the layers palette opened and closed at various intervals so we can see what we're working with. Another thing that I like to do is basically be able to toggle up and down the layers palette without actually touching it with my kind of mouse and clicking onto the layers, and I can do this very easily by putting my finger on the Apple key and using the same brackets that we use for controlling the brush diameter and hardness and softness. So up by the letter P, the bracket on the right will toggle me up the layers palette like so, and the bracket on the left will toggle me down once I use a combination of Apple keyboard key and the brackets. Another thing that I'd like to do quite a lot is put things into groups. So to select these layers, I'm going to click on the top layer, put my finger on the shift key, click onto this layer. So what I've done is now selected these so they're all into a little group like this, and I need to kind of finish off by putting them into a group folder. So if I very quickly hit Apple and G on the keyboard, that will put all of those items into a group. You can see now that if I toggle the eye icon on and off, they've all gone into the one grouped folder like so. It's a very quick little keyboard key for grouping, which is Apple and G. If I'm working with some text in a layer and I want to change the text, a quick way to select that is by coming to the T on the layers palette like this, and if I double click onto it, you can see it quickly highlights my text. So if I need to quickly highlight and change a piece, I can very quickly do that without having to go and click onto my type tool. Okay, so nice little kind of keyboard shortcut for selecting into the layers palette. Another one that I like a lot is for actually loading a selection of a particular layer. So if I come over to the layers palette and I quickly want to make a selection of one of the layers, again, if I put my finger on the Apple key, click into the window, you'll see that it quickly activates the marching ants around that particular layer. To deselect a selection, we're going to use Apple and D, which is obviously a quick way to deselect, and if we want to reselect, Apple Shift and D will basically reselect the selection that we've just made, and then Apple D again to deselect. A quick keyboard shortcut for transforming a layer would be select the layer first, and then if we hit Apple T on the keyboard, that will put the bounding box around the layer content. Once we've made the transformation to the layer and we want to basically apply that transformation, if we hit the enter key, that will quickly apply the transformation for us. Don't forget the keyboard shortcuts that we learned earlier. Apple Alt and Z will basically step us backwards one step at a time. A nice keyboard shortcut I like for duplicating a layer would be once the layer is selected, so I've clicked on the layer there like that. If I put my finger on the Alt key, I can come over to that layer, and if I click and drag, keeping my finger on the Alt key and just dragging over the item allows me to make multiple duplications and copies of it. If I want to get back, don't forget Apple Alt Z, that's going to step me back to the point before I basically made my copy. One last little one in terms of selections and layers, which I quite like, is if I want to make a new Photoshop file of one particular item in the document, let's say here for example, Apple click on the window, loads the active selection, and then if I do Apple C, keeping my finger on the Apple key, Apple N brings up the new Photoshop file, hit the enter key, and then if I Apple and V, that pastes just that active selection into the new Photoshop canvas made exactly for the particular size of the content that we selected. So nice little keyboard combination at the end to finish off with. Couple of keyboard keys there, so you might have to make a little written note of those ones and a little bit of practice to get the hang of that. For more information on our Photoshop courses, both online and classroom, you can click on this link and visit our website.